Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Piss. Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 19th of December 2024. This is a military aid video. We're going to start with reminding you of the campaign that's going on. I'm doing a live with Jonathan Fink and Georgie from Ukraine Matters Vilitner as well in a few hours' time. So please check that out. Now, I know I keep talking about the campaign. Thank you so much. We're over 25,000 euros now. I'm just going to, and this is relevant to the military aid segment in a kind of tangential way. I'm just going to show you some of these trucks that have previously been delivered to the forces out there from Car for Ukraine, and just tell you what Car for Ukraine had just told me. On the front lines in eastern Ukraine, a unit faced relentless FPV drone attacks. One day, a drone exploded just meters from their truck. The anti-drone system faltered, but the metal armor funded by our incredible donors held strong. So these vehicles do get some extra armor put on them when they get worked on in Ukraine. So we're taking the vehicles out there, and then they'll get they'll get sorted out in Ukraine. Slightly different from how NATO do it, which is do it all outside of Ukraine and deliver the finished articles into Ukraine. But you can see here, for example, if I just show you, it looks like there's been work on that window there, and the armor is supposedly upgraded. So shrapnel that could have been deadly was stopped by the reinforced doors, saving 3 soldiers' lives who were inside the car at that moment. And you can see that this vehicle took a bit of a battering, but those inside survived. So that was absolutely fantastic news there. So really good stuff. And these are the sorts of vehicles that we are helping to get to Ukraine, to be worked on, to be delivered to these units. So please help out with that. Thank you for the team who have been so generous already. Okay. We're going to start with, and I talked about this yesterday, I think, in the Geopolitics video, but NATO will not only supply weapons to Ukraine. So this is Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, former Dutch Prime Minister. I did my Australian accent yesterday, as I normally do, and then said I won't do a Belgian accent because Mark Rutte was meeting Zelensky. And people are like, he's Dutch, what are you talking about? No, they were meeting in Brussels. That's why I said the Belgian accent. So I know where Mark Rutte's from. Anyway, they have met. NATO will not only supply weapons to Ukraine, but also purchase Ukrainian-made weapons. He also noted that allies have provided Ukraine with 19 air defense systems to protect critical infrastructure. I was trying to work out yesterday, I couldn't get my head around NATO providing weapons and buying Ukrainian weapons, because NATO don't do the procurement. They aren't an organisation that has all the funds to go out and buy stuff. You have you have member states that spend on their own defence in order to qualify for NATO, if you like, 2% of GDP. Maybe moving up to 2.5, 3% of GDP as we are living in volatile times. But it's not that NATO has all these funds to go and buy things. So I don't know how that quite works with what Mark Rutte is saying, or whether he's just talking about NATO member states investing in Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Defense infrastructure. Now, interesting that Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has said the US spent $100 billion to help Ukraine, most of it for its defense industry. I don't know whether he means the American defense industry or the Ukrainian defense industry, but he's put $100 billion as the kind of tag on the cost of American support for the to help Ukraine. So lots of people saying 175. You got the Ukraine tracker from the Kiel Institute saying that actually, we need to be a bit more nuanced with these figures that are being bandied about. But anyway, that's Blinken casting his tuppence there. Right. The World Bank has approved over $2 billion in funds for Ukraine. The funding includes $1 billion grant from the new $20 billion US loan backed by frozen Russian assets. So it looks like, therefore, the World Bank is going to be the entity that administers that money on behalf of, in this case, the US loan there for the $20 billion US loan backed by frozen Russian assets. Another $1.05 billion is supported by the UK and Japan. So again, it's the G7 nations coming together, but also the EU as part of that, delivering that funding to Ukraine underwritten by the frozen Russian asset profits. There's still a lot of pressure on those same entities to just full on give the frozen Russian assets as a whole to Ukraine, and that would be to the tune of 300, maybe $330 billion. Now, the UK has announced $283 million military aid package for Ukraine. So John Healey visited Kiev and announced this £225 million, $283 million military aid package. They announced that today, which is fantastic, with him in Kiev at the moment. Now, this amounts to £92 million, so we're going back to pounds now, £92 million in naval equipment, £68 million for air defence, £26 million for spare parts, £39 million for counter-drone systems and protective gear. I don't know how much of this comes from British stocks or whether this is Britain funding the Ukrainians and maybe funding their own defence industry to produce that themselves. Naval equipment probably will come from us. Air defence, we're not huge on air defence in the UK. Our air defence is mainly seaborne, so we don't have Patriot systems because what we have are on board our ships, and that's how we do our air defence. Whether that's good enough, I don't know. But anyway, really great to see the UK stepping up again there. Britain will develop Ukraine's military industry in 2025, is what John Healey also said. London will help Kyiv on the international stage, so that support for Ukrainians does not stop, according to, again, John Healey there. Also, we're hearing, this is in the BBC, defence sources say that one option under consideration is sending British troops to Ukraine to help train their forces. Speaking to the BBC, Healey declined to give specifics, so it is being discussed. There are some discussions in the echelons of power in the UK whereby they are saying, what's the remit, risk management, etc., etc. There's lots to be worked out if that was going to happen, but actually that's something I'd be broadly keen on taking place, because I think Ukraine need as much help as possible, and they need the training to take place inside Ukraine. It's much more convenient there. Australia has provided Ukraine with over $1 billion in aid, as I reported yesterday, of which $880 million is military. So yeah, just to remind you that Penny Wong was over there, and that happened. Switzerland launched a €45 million winter support package for Ukraine to restore energy infrastructure, repair homes, and address urgent humanitarian needs. It's really good that Switzerland is still contributing, even though they're not doing the kind of military aid. If they can, like I've said to you before, two sides of a square. If everyone needs to provide in total all of these different things: humanitarian aid, energy infrastructure, this and that, military aid, blah blah blah. So if Switzerland don't provide weapons, we shouldn't be angry with Switzerland. As long as they're coming up with the goods to provide other stuff, then we can provide the weapons and we don't do the other stuff. It's all the same in the end, as long as there are enough people providing weapons and enough people providing humanitarian and energy assistance, etc., etc. Okay. A Helsinki court has ordered the seizure of Russian property. A district court in Helsinki just dealt the Kremlin a blow, says Minna Erlander. That could mean that more than 34 million euros of Russian assets in Finland are sold to benefit Ukraine. Brilliant. Well done, Finland. More nations need to be doing that. In fact, I think that's what Benjamin Tallis was saying. Yes, this is the way. An important step by Finland. Hashtag make Russia pay. Okay, Rustem Umerov, the Ukrainian defense minister, said that in December, Ukraine produced 200,000 different drones, aerial, UGV, USVs. In December last year, as a comparison, they produced 80,000 drones. So a year-on-year increase, the month comparison being December, of 80,000 to 200,000. That is what, 2.5. That's 2.5 times what they were producing previously a year ago. That's an incredible ramping up of capacity in just a year. And Defense Archives have brought out a big old document here on all the different drones that the Ukrainian military are using. I'm not going to go through all this. It's a massive list. But it's fascinating, this, because it gives you what's known about their dimensions and capabilities. So, for example, you've got the Leica 100, you've got the Leica LR, you've got the Ram 2. Ram 2 is an interesting one. We've seen that was kind of supposed to be the answer to the Lancet drone initially. Ram 2 Sasonia, I've not heard of that one. Sasonia VTOL, PD1, PD2, People's Drone. The Shark is one that we've seen. That's a reconnaissance drone. Gets used a lot. The Shark Mini. A1CM Furia, never heard of that one. Tells you who makes them as well. Mara 2P, Ares, Valkyrie, Stick M12, Buntai, Sparrow. So many of these I've not heard of. The Luti is one that is used widely to do distance strikes on things like energy infrastructure and bases and whatnot. UJ-25 Skyline there as well, or UJ-22 Airborne, I think. One of those two gets used quite a bit. Dart Ram 2X, so that Ram looks rather like the Lancet, doesn't it? Well, it's possibly bigger. The Boba, which is the Beaver, I think this one gets used an awful lot for distance strikes as well, or at least was. Haven't seen it used so much recently. So on and so forth. You can just go and check out all of these drones. This is a new one, the Pekla, the Hell, which is kind of a cruise missile come drone. Bit of a crossover there. But yeah, that'll be linked in the description below. Interesting document. Right. Max24 reports that how many times have I spoken? I'll be honest with you. With the USA, I really asked, and this is Zelensky saying this, I really asked, give us licenses to produce Patriot. And it seems that no one is against it. No one has ever told me, no, we won't give it to you. But so far, we haven't received anything, said Zelensky. So this is the idea that they would like to make Patriot, build it under license. But no one's said no, but no one's actually come forward and said yes. Someone says Patriot costs $1 billion per battery and 20 of these are needed. PAC-3 missile costs $1 million. Russia will manufacture missiles as long as it sells energy. Ukraine needs to move important infrastructure to rock caves. It's the only way to protect. Russia will be attacked with long-range missiles. I do think that there needs to be an awful lot of stuff underground. I presume that most of the new defense military industrial complex is being built, in very protected manners. Zelensky's also commented on partners' demands to lower the mobilization age. So let's, not listen to this. We're going to read through it through the subtitles. This is the subject of quite a lot of concern for the Americans, supposedly wanting Ukraine to reduce their mobilization age from 25, already had been reduced from 27 to 25, from 25 to 18. Quote, we have a mobilization age of 25, says Zelensky. That's how it was. From some leaders, we heard signals that let's lower the age of mobilization. I believe that today is not an honest conversation. And I said this publicly and not publicly to the leaders. It's just not fair. Modern warfare is different. It's not just about trenches. It's not just about being in a trench with a machine gun. These are modern weapons, drones, artillery, long-range weapons, and aviation. So a bit of an odd excerpt there, as in it doesn't give you really the reasons why he's not up for mobilizing younger people. Just that, it's not the era of war that it used to be. And these people aren't needed. I guess is that a claim on physicality? And as far as I'm concerned, this is about demographics. That they just have a distinct lack of people in those cohorts, as according to demographic analyses. And to take more from those cohorts would just completely screw the requisite kind of knowledge base and skills base that you need to have an active economy and for a future and for families and etc. etc. So I think they're trying to protect those cohorts. And you may say, well, they need those people desperately, but actually they've got a desperate lack of those people. If you just look at, again, to give you that same infographic or that same graph that I keep showing you, you have this huge lack here. This is where you want to be drawing from. That's where you've got, and most of these people have had their babies. To be quite serious about it, you've got a huge issue down here, right? They've got the lowest birth to mortality rate in the world. Like, they are screwed going forward, the Ukrainians. They need lots of babies. You've got the Russians, concerned with this to the point that they are making it illegal to advocate for childlessness. They've got a similar situation there, but in Ukraine here, just really lacking children to replace these bars need to replace these. But look, that's less than half of the people in this age bracket, and these are the ones that are going to be paying taxes for these people when they get up to here. So you're going to have this much larger old person set of cohorts up there, which will be paid for, but it's that reverse pyramid. It's just unsustainable. So if you're going to take people from here, which you're already lacking, then who's going to be making the babies down here? These people are generally less likely, well, they're not beyond making baby age as males, but they're less likely to have children at this age. So this is the age they want to be mobilizing. They want to be protecting this, and that protects the country as a whole, protects the economy, protects the future of the nation. You're both male and female, and actually, you've got quite a lot of females in the 60 to 65 to 70 category up here. Like, what do you do with that? Can you get them making drones? There would be, like, if I was in charge of the country, I'd be like, we need to employ these people in the war industry, like working as volunteers, or even like a 55-year-old woman. Can you get them operating, driving trucks for mobile air defences, etc., etc.? So you need to find your way around these problems. I do understand. I think it is justifiable for Zelensky to be reluctant to want to mobilise that age group. Right, and going on to Russia now. So if only Ukraine's allies took their support for Ukraine as seriously as North Korea does in their support for Russia. This is in response to Special Kherson Cat showing another train load of North Korean 1989 Koksan 117mm self-propelled guns being transported on Russian railways. This is a challenge for Ukraine. I mean, look at them. None of these have been used by look at them. Absolutely spanking condition there for fairly old SPGs. These are vehicles, these are weapons that can look, and that's a long old train there. These are weapons that can deal deadly blows to the Ukrainians. So it's not something to laugh off. The North Koreans providing troops and equipment prolongs the war, and this is stuff that the Ukrainians now have to destroy. This is a challenge. I really think, and I've said this before, won't belabor the point too much, but I just think that the North Korean entrance to this war is game changing. It's a game changer because it extends the war, as long as North Korea can keep doing this. And this must be demoralizing for the psyche, for the morale of the Ukrainian troops, because they're like, yeah, we've retreated, we've done so well at depleting the Russian army. And then you just see trainloads of North Korean equipment and trainloads of North Korean troops get sent to the front lines. You're like, we've got to do this all over again. And doing this attrits our own material and our own lives. So it's a really big challenge. And I don't think the West has done nearly enough to recognise that this is the challenge it really is, and to react as this being completely escalatory. I spoke to my partner's daughter's, the father of her child. They're not together at the moment. That's why she's staying here. But anyway, I was speaking to him the other day, and he had absolutely no idea North Koreans were on the front line in the war against Ukraine. He'd not heard it, knew nothing about it. So 30-something-year-old guy, fairly knowledgeable about stuff in sort of here and there. Honestly, didn't have a clue. How is it that many people. I wonder if you went out in the streets of the UK and asked, somehow could configure a question where you could find out whether people knew that or not. I imagine most people probably won't know. That's a huge element of this war. We need to understand this war for what it is and for the seriousness of this war, and the fact that you've got a dictatorship from Asia involved in a war in Europe. Anyway, that's enough ranting from me. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate your support. Again, check out the car from Ukraine. Is the amount of support you guys have given here. I mean, goodness me, that's just gone up again. Up over to 26,500 now. Holy crapola. It's so impressive. Thank you so much. Take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.